watching Conversations, and I'm your host, Raul Barquette. Today, my guest is Shaneika Marson. Hi. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. How? So I know you're not too, familiar with Staten Island. How was your trip out here?
It was fun. I was like a tourist hanging out the window, taking pictures of the what's that, Statue of Liberty?
Yeah. They didn't try to get you to go to the Statue of Liberty?
No. Yeah. Thank God. There was a lovely kid behind me though, like trying to look out my window and hanging on my hair, so that was fun.
Yeah, always. Great. But yeah, it's if it's your first time on a Staten Island ferry, it's a nice trip.
Yeah, it's fun. It's nice, but I could see how that could be daunting.
Yeah, those of us who live here,
daily,
it's dreaded. But yeah, so you're a multi-talented artist, Renaissance woman, if you will. Kind of got your hand in a bunch of pots. Can you tell us a little bit about your background in art and kind of what you do?
Sure. So I'm pretty much self-taught. It's always been something that I've done, like as a child. As I got older, I kind of gravitated to, because as I was younger, my parents used to give me books on like Renaissance artists. I grew up like learning about Leonardo da Vinci, who's my favorite, because I love science and I love drawing, and like he encompassed like those two backgrounds. And as I got older, I discovered Keith Haring, and I think that was like a pivotal point in like just being inspired. Mm-hmm. It was 8th grade, and the teacher for a week, the topic was Keith Haring, and we watched a documentary. We like replicated his artwork, and like on Friday we got to go to the pop shop, which was still open. It was like 98, and like that stuck with me because that was the first person I really learned about who wasn't like a classically trained artist doing like oil painting and blah blah blah. Then I was introduced to Basquiat, just like on my own research, and that completely blew my mind. He didn't go to art school. I didn't go to art school, but like here he was doing something that I wanted to do. So that was kind of like the two main influences that kind of pushed me into wanting to do an art career, but not go to art school. But yeah, that's pretty much the art background and just yearly growing into my craft. Because I remember at every point an artist says, I want to find my style. Because you're kind of mimicking everybody's stuff until, you find your own, niche. And it came a point where I was like, oh, I like what I'm doing here. And I just expanded on it. And even though things like, they vary each painting, but you can kind of tell, okay, that's her work.
If I see one of your paintings, I know it's you, even if it's just on the wall, And you can definitely see some influence from Haring, a little Basquiat influence. Did you make it out to the Basquiat show at the Brooklyn Museum?
I did. I try to make it out to everyone.
So for me, I thought it was a really great show.
Yeah.
But for someone who's such a fan, how...
I mean, I thought that was the most boring out of all the ones, to be honest. That was the most boring one I've seen in terms of just, it felt like it was slapped together. Like they found this content that was never seen before, and they're like, oh, we got to rip his notebooks apart. And if you read about Basquiat and the person who he wasn't, I don't think he'd want to be exploited that way. Maybe he would, but not in that way. Yeah. And seeing the crowd that comes out to his shows, I don't think he would want that either. In fact, I just walked by his old apartment the other day, and it's a restaurant, but you can't go in unless you're invited in. Like, you have to be like godfathered in. You can't so someone who went to the restaurant has to invite you. It's very pretentious.
Yeah, that's
very anti who he was. Yeah,
I'm sure.
Dying again.
I was just at a Luch gallery today actually, and they have they actually have Harings and Basquiats in their back room, so it was kind of cool. I stumbled in there and saw those. I was like, oh, this works out perfectly today. You should have been there. Can you tell me a little bit about your painting style and the process of maybe working into a painting?
I don't know. I feel like getting to know other artists as I got older, they're more, and I guess it's because of the art training. They have a general concept, they sketch it out, they play with it. Me, I'll have an idea. Sometimes it lands, sometimes it doesn't, but it's mostly just like frenetic. It's like, okay, I have this idea for something. I don't like this. I'll like smear some paint there, and it kind of comes together as I'm doing it. It's never like I don't see the painting in its entirety. Like in my mind, I'm like, that's what I want to paint. It's kind of like, I have an idea to do this. Let me try this out. Let me add this. And then it kind of materializes on its own.
I think there's a common misconception amongst people
Yeah.
that all artists can visualize exactly what's going to be the finished product before it happens. But I find a lot of artists, I feel like, are very exploratory.
Yeah.
So you do something, see how it goes, react to it, paint some more, and kind of it's more of a process versus an execution of this finalized idea that you've.
And it's more fun too. You kind of you play around with each painting. Like you don't go in there with like, all right, I'm going to do it this way and that's it. Yeah. It's like there's some paintings where I use no paintbrush, or I use paper. It's just like you got to have fun. If you're not having fun with it, like what's the point?
Yeah. So you've kind of experienced, I think, the art world from like a multi-directional kind of life. You've curated art shows. You've had your work in other people's shows. You've sold your work on the street. Yeah. You've been an event coordinator and organizer. You've been clothing designer.
The list goes on.
Yeah. Can you delve into any aspects?
I think doing all those things, you kind of know what you want. I don't think you should close yourself off to like one particular. I'm gonna be this and that's it. I think playing all those different roles, like, okay, I'm a curator, like now I understand what the curator goes through and what they're looking for. I'm the artist, it kind of molds not only how you behave with people, but how you want things done. Yeah. And I try to like dabble in things that I have no clue about, just to like educate myself. And that's how I've always been. I didn't get to go to art school because of obviously financial situations, among other things. So it never really stopped me and said, I didn't go to art school, so I can't do this. I've always been a person that's like, I don't know how to do this. How am I going to do it? Let me figure it out. So everything I've done, I wasn't classically trained. It's all just been, okay, I'm going to do it. I might mess up a few times, but it's going to, it works out. So it's been a very interesting up and down with everything that I do.
I feel like that kind of applies to the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
You mess up, you figure it out, you keep going, but it also, goes back to your style of painting.
Yeah.
So you may do something that you love and work forward and do something that you may think, brings the painting backwards a little bit, but then you work around it or paint over it or find a way to make it happen, which I think is great. And that's one of the reasons I get along with you so well. You just kind of, you don't let anything get in your path, and if you want to do it, you're going to do it. And then I'm going to, a couple months later, she did it.
She did it,
and
right?
that's what it is.
Which is good. That's a good thing. I think everybody should do that and try not to be you're going to be discouraged. Like I've been discouraged many times. But it's like you come to a point where you stop and it's like, okay, what do? I'm just going to be one of those people that are doing nothing. Yeah. And it's like, I don't want to do that. Yeah. I want to do something. So that's pretty much the gist of that motivation.
The kind of multidisciplinary aspect of your life. I don't want to say your work, but your life in general. I think taste is a really interesting example of that because you're bringing together two of your passions under one roof. Can you tell us about that?
All right, so with Taste, Taste happened, the idea for Taste happened last year. And a lot of people, close friends, I think you've been to my house. I cook for everybody. And it's just always been a passion. Being a kid, I used to watch, Frugal Gourmet, Yan Can Cook. I don't know if people even remember that.
No.
That's how old I am, guys. Yan Can Cook on PBS. And I've always loved cooking. And I think growing up in New York and having friends from different backgrounds, being introduced to all these different things, it's exciting. You get to learn, different cuisines. I'm Caribbean, so I have that. But then, you have the American cuisine, Latin, Greek, whatever. And with Taste, I started out with an Instagram account, Hungry Artist, which is a whole other thing, and just making meals and just experimenting. And I was like, how can I put food and art together? Like, how does that work? And with Taste, I was like, I want to do a brunch and an art show. But I'm like, are people going to understand it? Are they going to, how do I, present it where it's not just all about the food or all about the art? It's a little bit of something. So, with that, I try to curate each menu differently. It's never like, oh, chicken and waffles and, baked eggs or whatever the situation is. I try to all right, what's funky that I've never done before that I can incorporate with this? And I want it to grow. I want to do a 7-course dinner in the fall. Something a little heavier. The colder it gets, people want to eat. So I want to do something where somehow each dish is based off a painting that's in the show. Don't steal that, anybody watching. It's my idea, copywriting it. But yeah, something like that where it's like everything plays off of something. And that's basically what I do. Everything that I do plays off of a passion, plays off of an idea. And, you hope it works. I think Taste worked. People enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed it. I think it went over really well and got a positive reception. I didn't make it to the second one.
Yeah.
How did that go? Was that
everything that could have possibly went wrong? Because the first one was too smooth.
Yeah.
It was like
it did seem very polished.
Too smooth. Yeah. It was like everybody got there on time. The art was set up. People came. The food sold out. I was like, this is like okay. So then you have that to compare it to.
Yes.
Everything went wrong. Like I made homemade ice cream, and the freezer broke down. I had ice cream soup. The power went out because I plugged in the fryer and a whole bunch of crap in the kitchen, and it was just like, but you keep going.
Yeah.
You play it off like, this is supposed to ice cream soup. I'm floating the bread or whatever in the ice cream soup, so it was good. But yeah, you just have to roll with the punches. You can't, like, the minute you get frazzled, like, that's it.
Yeah.
And I do have a temper. I have gotten frazzled in the past, and it doesn't work. It's like, forget it. But yeah, taste wasn't bad. I like the idea, and people are receptive, and I think they were surprised that I knew how to cook. Because everybody knows, you know how to cook. Everybody's a chef. Until like you taste it, it's like,
that's
yum.
interesting. Thank you.
That taste. But no, like I think it's a good idea, and I really want it to grow. But try not to do too many things at once, where it's like I can't do anything at all.
You spread yourself too thin. Yeah, and I think taste is a great concept. The branding is strong.
Yeah.
And the food's great and the art's good. So you put all those things together, and you just have it should be a winning combination.
Yeah.
And just nobody steal the idea. So speaking of maybe your temper or getting frazzled, I have to ask about selling your work on the street. So you had your spot on Prince Street?
Prince Street. That was an interesting couple of years. I think that molded me as well. I think the most interesting thing about selling your art on the street are the vendors. They're very crazy. They're not regular people that are coming out to sell anything. They're really nutty. This guy, I won't name names, but he does pieces on subway maps. And I've been out there for like a few months now, like with one of my friends, and like that's how I got into it. So I set up one morning, and this guy comes, and he's like, "You're in my spot." I'm just like, "It's like 3 spots over there. Like, go over there." So he's like, "I'll let you have it, but I just got out of jail, and I've been in jail, and I've been setting up here for years." And I'm like, "I just got out of jail too, and I've been setting up here for years. I've never seen you." So I'm meeting his crazy. So then he calmed down a little bit. He moved to his spot next to me, and he's like pacing back and forth in my artwork. I'm like, oh God, there we go. So after a while, he kind of like calmed down, got used to me. But then like every piece that I bring out, he tried to make like a carbon copy of it. And it was like the weirdest like experience, because I'm used to, you're an artist, you're just expressing who you are, not, oh, this girl's selling this and she's selling it, and I'm not selling anything. Let me jump on what she's doing. And that was kind of the mentality, and why I kind of stepped back, because then it got like really, like that kind of energy, it's like, that's not something I'm interested in. It's not fun anymore. Yeah. But I had some like fun, interesting times. I met a lot of interesting people, that's for sure. I met one of my biggest collectors out there. He is a diamond dealer from Israel. And I don't know what he was doing with he bought a lot of paintings. I think he resold them.
Yeah.
It was like too much. I was like, wait a minute, I'm buying all of this? But he's a cool guy, and we met on the street, and you meet a lot of interesting people. I've met boutique owners. I've met, celebrities. So it was a cool experience. I wouldn't tell anybody not to do it, but it's definitely a energy drainer after a while. Yeah. It's not something I would do like years and years and years.
Yeah. It's it's like crazy hustle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's definitely like, you have to set your hours, and you got to be out there, or someone's going to take your spot.
That's insane.
Or if somebody wants to come back and, they saw you one day, they didn't have money to come back, you're not there.
Yeah.
All of a sudden,
and the haggling. The haggling is wonderful. It's like, oh, it's 100. about 40. And it's like, where'd you come with the 40? You know what I mean? Like,
that's not anywhere close.
Like, but yeah, it was a definite, amazing learning experience that I'll never do again.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Done.
Done. That was it.
Yeah.
Time passed.
So, yeah, you mentioned you have some, celebrity clients and stuff. Any interesting stories with that or kind of, again, you don't have to name names, but...
I think a cool one that was a good experience. I like to DM random people, just like pieces or new pieces that I've done. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they look at it and they're like, oh, that's cool, whatever. And the first celebrity that kind of followed up with it was Fabulous. Yeah. And I was taken aback. I was like, oh, okay. So then this was literally pulling teeth because, they have their schedule and you're just like, I want to sell this now. It doesn't work like that. So it was a 6-month flirtation of, hey, we want to meet so I could see it. I want to buy it. But, our schedules, well, his schedule never clicked with mine. It was our schedule. But finally, he was like, all right, I want you to come out to my studio in Jersey. So I was like, oh, wow, cool. So I was like, I did a portrait of him. But of course, you can't just bring one. I bought a bunch of stuff. Yeah. And he was really cool. I was expecting I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't it. He was really cool. We spoke for hours, and one of his producers were there, who's really nice. And he ended up buying a couple of pieces and following up, and I was doing merchandise pillows and stuff like that. Ended up buying a couple of pillows and posting it on Instagram, and it was an interesting, cool celebrity experience. Outside of that, Spike Lee has a couple of prints of mine. DJ Clark Kent. But, there's been some interesting celebrities who are just I'm famous, give it to me for free. Yeah. I'm just I don't care. If you're a celebrity, I'm not giving it to you for free. But, there's some interesting ups and downs with this art thing. It's never you never see the success right away. It's oh, one day I sell a $1,000 painting. Years later, I sell another one, if that, maybe. So it's pretty cool. Keeps me on my toes. So
kind of the up and down path of an artist's career. Yeah. How important do you think it is for an artist to kind of merchandise their work and find other venues? I'm wearing your latest pin release now. Yeah. You mentioned pillows. Is this something that you recommend? Is it something that you feel is important, or? I think that every artist should diversify what they're doing because you're going to get bored and you're going to get frustrated. And I think that's why I switch my attention to different things. At one point, I was doing all merch. Then I went back to painting. Then I went to prints. And even with taste, that was something different. You have to move around your energy. Because if you put all of it on one thing and it fails or it doesn't pan out, you become so heartbroken and it's not a good feeling. I was at a point where I was living in Brooklyn and couldn't find a job for anything. And it was a really great apartment. And I was like, I got to make rent. And I was hustling. And then somehow for that year, every month I made you came to I was not working when we were kicking it in that apartment. So that was all art sales. And it's maddening because then it's not fun. It's it's a business now in a bad way where it's you're not being creative for the sake of being creative. You're I have to make this. I have to make prints of it. I have to come up with these ideas to sell. And I think you have to find a comfortable position where you can still be creative, do all these different things, but be financially okay, which is a balancing act that I haven't quite figured out yet. It's either I'm working too much or I'm not working enough. But I think I'm kind of better off now than I've been in years. I think it's like you said, balancing act is something I think a lot of artists kind of struggle with. Yeah. David Cho, for example, was he's this famous, one of the most wealthy artists in the world right now, and he couldn't sell his paintings. Yeah. There was a point he had his work in ice cream shops and restaurants, and just trying to sell one piece, two pieces, and they weren't going. And then when he went to Vegas, became a millionaire gambling, and then said, I don't need to sell my paintings anymore. And he was in a really good position where he didn't need to make that sale to make his rent. And he upped all his prices because he didn't care anymore. Yeah. And then that's when his work started selling. Not only did he get more per piece, but
Yeah.
he started selling more work, and that's when the Facebook thing happened, and they couldn't afford to pay him the $16,000 for his mural, so they gave him stock, and then flash forward 10 years or something, he sells the stock and he becomes like billionaire.
And that's another infuriating thing about art. It's like the quality of your work doesn't change so drastically that the price, you know what I mean? Like if I'm selling a $500 piece now and then selling it for 50 grand like years later, I'm not painting with gold. It's the same, paint. It's the same whatever. And it's almost based off of people's, I don't want to say stupidity. I want to say naivety about things. It's just like, oh, well, this person is interested in you, and so it must be. And like that's like the bravado that you have to like bring forth a little bit. Because I've met some artists who have tapped into that. I can't fake the funk. Like, you're gonna buy it or you're not. You like it or you don't. Like, either way, somebody's. You know what I mean? Like, when Fabulous had bought a couple of pieces, it was amazing to me the people that gravitated to my Instagram that were trying to buy things that, like, it's the same pieces. Like, it's just another dude who has more money and might have more of a following or whatever that bought something. And it always blows my mind that people think like that with anything.
It's funny how celebrity culture can affect it so quickly, because an artist may show at one gallery and he'll sell some work, and then show at another gallery that's bigger, you'll sell more work, but it takes a while. If they still don't know you, they don't know you, and it's going to be a while before they build, no matter how good your work is, and it takes a while to get to this point. But when Swizz Beatz started doing, he started painting and then started collecting, and then eventually he did the no commission fair and the projections outside the Brooklyn Museum, and all of a sudden all these artists that I've known and maybe you've known, and if you're an artist and you live in New York, you may know them personally, are blowing up, and their careers. Which is cool. Yeah, but that's celebrity culture.
It's really weird, and you try not to chase that, because it's like you want your work to sell. You want to be at that point where it's like, this is what's supporting me, but at what price? I did have a producer who I met through Instagram, who's pretty big, who works with another big, I don't want to name drop, but he was so pretentious, and just the way he approached me, it was like, all right, I know your style, I know what you're painting, but you're going to paint this. Like, he wanted me to paint like bottle girls. Like, he wanted me to paint like certain content, which is sellable. I understand where he was coming from. But he mentioned Alec Monopoly, who I'm not too interested in. I appreciate what he's doing.
And what someone painted for him.
What someone, I didn't touch that one. But it's like that kind of like ignorance, not knowing like the process of like, I'm an artist, this is original work, this is what I'm bringing forth. You like it, but you want me to paint something so like redundant and pretentious, just to like, oh, look at her, she's, they want to market you. Yeah. And to some extent you have to market yourself, but when you put your image in the hands of someone else, it's like, that's not me. You know what I mean? So I think that's the main issue with a lot of artists. They come to that fork in the road where it's like, do I follow this path where like, I'm gonna smell dirty and wear like the grungy clothes and look a certain way, or am I just gonna be me and do my thing, paint the way I want to paint, and maybe struggle a little bit longer? But I think either path, you eventually get to where you want to go, but one just takes a lot longer.
That's true.
Yeah.
You mentioned the uniform almost. I think that's kind of funny, because there's people you see at every show and they're wearing the same thing, and maybe they've got paint on all their clothes every time you see them, and you just think, we know you're an artist.
We get it.
We get it. I don't think it's necessary. I think the work, people say, oh, my work speaks for itself. Maybe it doesn't always speak for itself, but you can also speak for your work. Yeah. But there doesn't have to be a character and an elaborate marketing plan to be an artist. Just make the work, and if people gravitate towards the work, people will gravitate towards it. And I think there's a market for almost everybody's work, definitely, as long as you find it.
Yeah, that's the thing, finding your little niche there. trying to figure it out. But it's funny you were saying there's certain people that you see at shows. There's this one girl who I'm not going to name because I'm going to tell you the name after. Yeah. So she uses certain things to like, you know, get into shows. And it was interesting. So I went to this artist. He had like a big solo show. And she came in with like a little dog. And she's usually like really like well put together. Came in with like a little dog, portfolio, like grungy, like painted up clothes. Like just didn't look. I'm like, what are you wearing? She comes in, this is like a crowded solo show, drops her portfolio like in the middle of like the entire, and it's like picking it up with the dog. And people are looking at her like, and I'm looking at her, I'm like, you're such a good artist. And like I've heard stories about this particular woman, like her tactics. And I mean, they work, but you know, watching it and seeing it unfold, it's just like, at what point do you say, maybe I shouldn't, you know what I mean? Like that was like the most tackiest thing I've ever seen with like the little puppy. Yeah. And everyone's like, oh, do you want me to help you with your... You
don't feel dirty after doing this?
Like,
come on, you
go
take
home
a
and
shower.
clean, just like, oh, the things I've done. But,
any regrets?
Any regrets? No. Actually, I think before starting and stopping, I think that like kills your momentum. Because people do watch you, especially if you have like a little bit of a following. If you're doing something consistently, people really take notice of it. Yeah. But like if you're starting and stopping, people like, maybe they're not sure about what the hell they're doing. Yeah. And why am I buying into it? And it's all about branding and just figuring it out. But I mean, as an independent, whether you're a musician or a poet or writer, and you're doing it on your own, you're learning as you go. There's no like blueprint to say, do this, and then that'll happen. The only blueprint is just be consistent with whatever you're doing. Even if it's bad. It's a lot of bad art, and people are consistently painting bad art. And then it's like, wow, this guy's consistently bad. Maybe it's good. And they buy it. So I think my biggest regret was just starting and stopping years ago and just like, you know, going really hard and then kind of being disheartened about certain things and stopping for a period of time, and people are like, what's going on with her brand? But I think that's where I learned to like put my energy in different things.
Yeah, that's been our time. Yeah. I want to thank you for coming out. That was really awesome. I appreciated talking. You know, I'm sure we could talk for another half an hour, another hour after this. But we kept it PC, which I knew was going to be difficult. But yeah, thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Of course.
Awesome.
We should do it again.
We will. Definitely will. Part 2.
Right? Stay tuned. Part 2.